Hello, Mookies. I have been trying to shoot this video for a few days now. For those of you who follow me, you're probably wondering where I've been. It's been a while since I've posted a video. And you're probably wondering where I'm at. How come I have not a stitch of makeup on my face? I have my wine. Box of tissue. And no plate of food. We're just gonna chit chat. Some of you already know that my dad passed away. He passed away 4 years ago. This coming May, will make 4 years. And his birthday is in January. So, holidays, the month of January. Oh my God, I'm already getting teary-eyed. And of course, the month of May are pretty difficult for us. I'm sitting in his room. He lived with me for about 16 years. My dad was diagnosed in 1999 with multiple myeloma, which is a form of cancer. And at the time he was diagnosed, the doctor told me he only had 4 years. I asked the doctor not to share that with my dad. So my dad, for many, many years, didn't even know he was terminal. I just haven't been super bubbly and happy, so I haven't done any of my mukbang videos. Because I don't want to cry over the top of my plate of food. So, I did feel it necessary to at least explain why I've been MIA. I'm sorry, this seems to be so blurry. So, sorry I'm being a crybaby. It's very hard, still to this day, to come into his room. We've left his room exactly how it was when he was last here. So, nothing in here has changed. And sometimes we come in here and we sit in this room to try to feel close to him. But this room holds a lot of pain. I've been struggling with changing this room out. I'm going to convert this room into my studio so that I feel close to my dad while I'm filming. Some of you may think that's really weird. Some of you may understand that. It's just really hard to be without him. He was a great dad. And I miss him so much. So, I bought paint and flooring, and I'm going to be converting this room into my studio so I can film and produce more videos. And I'm sure with my dad's help, I will make my channel great. I know why I'm sobbing here trying to explain this to you all. You probably think I'm crazy. It's just something I think it's time. I need to start healing. It's going to help with that. It's going to help the healing process for me and my son, because my dad lived with us, and so we are the ones that have the room, you know, that he lived in the house. So it's been really, really hard for us, because we come in this room and we sit here and we cry. I don't know if I've ever been in this room once since my dad has been gone that I haven't cried. So that's where I've been. I have been sad. I've been pretty sad, and that's why I haven't done any videos. So, please forgive my absence. I will be back soon. I'm going to be working on this room this weekend. We'll get everything switched over. And I will be back. I don't even know, like, how much of this whole crazy story I should even say on YouTube. What happened with my dad. If it would help me at all. I just know that my dad was the strongest man on the planet Earth. He really was. He fought his cancer so hard, and half the time he didn't even know what he was fighting. We got the doctor somehow to not discuss all of the worst parts of his disease with him. He discussed it with us. And I think my dad's faith, along with him not knowing that he was dying, kept him alive for 16 more years. And in the end, he didn't even actually die from his cancer. I mean, it's in connection with his cancer. My dad was in the hospital. My dad was in the hospital. I want to say for about a month. He was in the hospital for about a month. I think he had gotten pneumonia. And then all of a sudden his blood sugar started tanking. My dad was on dialysis. The reason he was on dialysis is because the medication that he was on to put his cancer in remission affected his kidneys. The medication worked. He was in remission for a few years, but it killed his kidneys. And so then he had to go on dialysis. And I don't know if any of you know how that works. They usually put in a fistula into your arm. And basically what that is it's an artificial vein. Let's call it a tube that's opened up larger than your vein so that it can, they can hook up this large machine that pulls your blood into the machine, cleans your blood, and then puts your blood back into your body. It's a filtering system. It works, it does the work that your kidneys are supposed to do for you when your kidneys don't function properly. So, my dad had some trouble with his fistula. The needle that they put into this fistula is quite large. And he was going to dialysis 3 or 4 times a week. And they kept having to poke that needle into his fistula. And his skin had a hard time healing over with all of the pokes. So I want to say maybe twice he's had to have surgery to have his fistula replaced and to put it in a different spot because he had such a hard time healing in the area where they kept poking him. And it's very dangerous for that area to remain open because you can bleed. So, while my dad was in the hospital, the doctors just looking at my dad's chart, they just kind of wrote him off and told us, oh, do you want us to stop giving him dialysis? He's basically at the end of his time. Instead of us poking him, let us just, you want to just basically let him go. And, of course, we know my dad. We know my dad more than they knew my dad. And my dad fought every minute of his life. We talked to my dad, and my dad said, no, I don't want to die. If I stop dialysis, I'll die. So we did not stop dialysis. My dad's blood sugar kept tanking, and they couldn't get it under control with food at the hospital. The nurses kept giving him medication because they were afraid, you know, they'd come in his room, his blood sugar had dropped so low, they'd be afraid, and they'd give him what they needed to give him to shoot his blood sugar back up. We have always been able to control my dad's blood sugar with food. The doctor was very upset with the nurses because the nurses kept medicating him to raise his blood sugar. And so the doctor finally said, I'm going to let him go home with you guys since you know how to control his blood sugar. I don't know what's going on here, why they keep going against my orders. I'm going to let him go home with you. And I think in his doctor's mind, they just thought he was at the end of his road and they were just going to let him come home and pass. But, you know, we knew better. We knew how strong my dad really was. My dad hadn't walked in a month. He hadn't been out of bed in a month. He came home. And I think the very next day, if I'm not mistaken, that he came home with my sister's assistance, he walked into the bathroom and took a shower. So he was eating. He was eating his food. He was happy to eat his food. He was sitting up at the table. He was in the living room. He was my dad. Every bit of my dad. But his sugar kept dropping. It kept tanking on us. So every 2 hours, around the clock, even in the middle of the night, my sister took the morning shift. I took the night shift. So I literally had to stay up all night long and bring him something to eat every single 2 hours around the clock to make sure we kept his sugar where it needed to be. I need to skip back for a second. My dad was having trouble in the hospital with his fistula. And we told the doctors, can you go in and remove his fistula, move it somewhere else this is a problem. It's not closing correctly, and we're concerned. You know, he's had to have the surgery twice before. While he's in the hospital, can you guys make that correction? No, 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 no. We'll bandage it. It'll be fine. We said, well, we would like it fixed. They just wrote my dad off. They didn't want to do surgery on him. We had to fight for any tests to be done on my dad to try to figure out why his sugar was tanking. They just kind of, it was my feeling that they kind of looked at his chart and said, you know, this is it. His family's fighting for nothing. So, my dad came home on a Friday. I think Saturday, my sister and him walked into the bathroom. He was at the kitchen table eating with us. He'd come in his room and lay down. He'd go in the living room, in the family room, and watch TV. He was getting back to his old self. The only thing is his blood sugar did keep tanking, and we kept having, you know, around the clock, every 2 hours, we had to make sure he had something to boost his sugar up. And we'd check his sugar every 2 hours to make sure that it wasn't tanking to the point where we had to take him back to the hospital. So Monday morning, which was Memorial Day. Sorry, my camera shut off. So, 4 days after we brought my dad home, on Memorial Day in 2015, I made my dad breakfast, his eggs. He liked to eat his eggs in the morning. He wanted to eat in his room and watch the news in bed. So I brought him his breakfast and his coffee. And that day, I had to go to the insurance company. We had just switched insurances for our cars. And I had to go get pictures taken of my son's truck. So I brought him his breakfast, and I said, Dad, Nikki is on her way, which is my sister. She's on her way. I'll be upstairs if you need me in my office. Yell for me if you need me. He said, okay. And I said, I love you, Dad. I'll be right back. I'll be right down if you need me. Just yell for me. And he said, okay. I said, but Nikki's already on her way. And he said, okay. My sister got here about 10-15 minutes max after I left my dad in his room. She came with my niece, who was 3 years old at the time. And she came into my dad's room, and he was unconscious. Somehow, my dad's fistula opened up, and my dad bled out. My sister, she screamed. It was was just one scream, but it was the most horrible sound I've ever heard in my life. I knew something so bad, so bad. I knew something so bad was wrong. My son was asleep and he heard her scream. As I was running down the stairs, my son literally, I have a large flight of stairs. I have 2 landings in my staircase. He jumped over me and landed on the 2nd landing trying to run to my sister. He just looked like he was asleep. I didn't know what was going on when I got down here. I called 911. My sister was freaking out. And in my head, I was calm. I thought, it's gonna be okay. It's always okay. My dad's always okay. I thought he would wake up. I couldn't calm my sister down. She was trying to pull my dad off the bed. She was trying to pick him up. We got him to the hospital. The ambulance came. They took him to the hospital. They said he coded in the ambulance. And they worked on my dad for 17 minutes. They worked on my dad. I just think maybe he saw my grandma and he wasn't scared anymore, and he was done. And he went home. I still have nightmares. They don't happen as often as they used to, but I still have nightmares of my sister screaming. It wakes me up at night sometimes. My dad helped raise my son. So my son was affected in ways that you could never imagine. He's a completely different person now. My dad was such an important fixture in our family. He was our glue. And my brother, my youngest brother, told me I thought you were going to be the one that was going to be the strongest. And I'm the complete opposite. I just fell apart. When the months after my dad died, I still couldn't get out of bed. The only thing, I mean, I would never ever take my life. It wasn't anything like that. I just didn't want to live. I didn't want to die. I just did not have a desire to live, if that makes sense. The only thing, well, there are a couple things that got me up out of the bed. My son, of course. I had to get up and he was hurting so bad, and he needed help, so I had to be strong for my son. And one day, I remember my little sister sitting with me in my car, and she just started crying. And she was so scared. And she said, "You're going to lose everything. You have to get up. You're going to lose everything you worked for. I'm so scared for you. You have to get up." And she's right, I had to get up. I didn't want to get up. I just wanted it all to go away. I wanted to wake up and then my dad be here. It was such a horrible, horrible way for us to see him go. The doctor said there was nothing we could have done because he bled out from his fistula, and they said within 2 minutes he was gone. I mean, he wasn't gone, but he was too far gone for us to have done anything to help him. My dad, there were nurses that had taken care of my dad at times that he had to be hospitalized. They were running down to the emergency room when they heard he was there and what happened. That's the kind of man my dad was. We were waiting in the waiting room, and they came to get us. And I kept asking, "Is my dad okay? Is my dad okay?" And he wouldn't answer me. And he said, "We have to go into this room here." And I looked, and there was a sign, and it said the quiet room. Even then, I thought, oh, my dad's on life support, and he'll pull through. This was just a really close one. My dad will pull through. And they took us to the room, and they left one of the nurses in with us, and the other nurse ran to get the doctor. And I said, "Is my dad okay?" I told him again, "Is my dad okay?" And the nurse just put his head down, and he said, "If you ask me, no, he's not. But you have to talk to the doctor." So the doctor came in, and he sat down. He just looked, the doctor looked so defeated. And I was still in my head. I still had a calm about me. And I said, "Where's my dad?" My sister was like, "Where's my dad? Where's my dad?" And I was trying to call family members, and I was shaking, and I was trying to call everybody to get to the hospital. And the doctor said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We tried for 17 minutes, and we couldn't bring him back." And my sister, she stood up, and she snapped. She was banging on the doors, screaming, "Where's my dad? I want my dad!" One of my brothers had to grab her, my son. They had to, like, the nurses had to jump on her. She went crazy. And I was still calm. I was still so calm because it didn't register with me. I thought my dad was going to be okay still. And I said, "What? I don't understand." He said he bled out from his fistula. There's nothing that we could have done, that he was too far gone within 2 minutes. So all that fighting, all the special diets, all the medicine, all the chemo, everything we fought so hard for, I feel like God had to do something that we couldn't fight, because we would have fought anything they would have thrown at us. We would have fought it. We would have found a way to keep my dad here. But God had other plans. So that is the story of my dad's last days, and why I can't pull my shit together to make a video right now, besides this one explaining why I haven't made a mukbang video. For those of you who are lucky enough to still have your parents, if you don't live with them, call them an extra couple of times a week. Appreciate them. I know that my dad knows how much we loved him. But you don't realize how amazingly important, how much you love someone until they're no longer here. So if I have one message for any of you, that would be to appreciate your parents. Tell them you love them as many times as you can stand to do it in a day. Take them out to eat. Any extra time you have, give them some of it. I would do anything to have my dad here again, but I know he's in such a beautiful place, and he's with his mom and his brother and other family members. And he's no longer suffering. So, I will be turning this sad, sad room into a happy room this weekend. And I will be doing my very best to bring you the very best content that I can. And I will be doing that with the help of my dad, because I will be in his space. And this room that makes me cry will bring me joy. That's the plan. So, again, forgive me for my absence. I will be back with a video with a beautiful plate of food to fill my belly very soon. I hope you all have an awesome night. I'm filming this at night. I don't know if I'm going to post this today or tomorrow. It'll probably be tomorrow. I hope you have an awesome day. It'll probably be posted in the morning. I'm sorry for all my sobbing. I was going to try to get through this without snot all over my face. Thank you guys for sharing this time with me, giving me the space to pour out my heart and let me move on, helping me to move on to the next chapter. I love you, Mookies, as you all know very well, to the moon and back.